Hi, I'm Russ Mayo. I'm going to be showing you how to make a 3D title. Not necessarily 3D text, but we're going to be putting some depth to your title. And it's going to look something like this. I'm going to include the background and these ink splatters, and then you can choose what type of name you want. I chose the mascot for Pleasant Grove High School, which is the Viking. So this is kind of what we're going to be doing. Now, I was able to find these things on Google. You can find them there if you don't want to use these. And you can see they're not the best ink splatters. I didn't get the highest quality ones, but you'll be able to figure this out. The first thing you're going to do is work in After Effects. You're going to go to Composition and you're going to make a new composition. I like to choose HDTV, and it's a preset. You've got 1080, 24 frames. And then make sure your duration is at least 5 to 10 seconds. I'd say anything over 10 seconds is going to be too long. So I've already got these things in my project bin, so I'm just going to take down the texture, drop it down into my layer bin, and then I'm going to choose text, and I'm going to type in Vikings because that's the mascot of my school. So with this, I'm also going to position it kind of where I want it, and that's a title. I mean, that's as basic as it gets, but we want to add some depth to it, and right now it's just Vikings on a flat surface. You can't tell that there's any depth. So I want to be able to add lights, I want to add ink splatters, all that type of stuff. But the very first thing that I want to do is make these layers 3D. Now this thing is going to make it so you can do that. So right below that little 3D box, you click on it. Now these layers are 3D, and you've got these three arrows, your X-axis, your Y-axis, and your Z-axis. Now your X moves you left and right, your Y up and down, and your Z forward and backward. Now this is moving it back, and it just looks like it's getting bigger or smaller, but as you see, as it gets bigger, it goes up in front of the text. So you want to be able to put some space between your background and your text layer. So we've done that, but you can't really tell. Even if I move this thing and change the depth, you're not seeing it. So the only way you can see the depth is to create a camera. So you go to your layer, new camera. I like to choose the 50mm lens, and it tends to work really well for me. So what we're going to be doing is doing that. For some reason my camera is always messed up, so I have to go in here and hit the reset button, and it cures all my problems. I think I accidentally made some preset where it makes it so it doesn't have the right focal distance, but that's my problem, not your problem, hopefully. So if you choose your camera by pressing C, or you can come up and choose this little camera icon, you're going to be able to see the depth between these two different layers. Now there's not a ton of depth, but there's enough to be able to see that there's 3D space. But you're not going to be able to see this space unless you create some type of movement. So I'm going to go to the camera, and these little arrows give you more options. So click on that, and you go to transform, and you're going to set your keyframes. I set them all. You don't necessarily have to, but I'm going to go to 10 seconds, and I'm going to change what happens with this view. So I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to change the positioning of it. And I really don't like having this black background where it just looks kind of tacky. So I'm going to choose my background, and I'm going to make it much bigger. And that way you just don't see that change. So you can kind of see what's going on there. It's just a slow move. I like to make the moves very basic. Now if you want to change it up at all, you can have things move like this in case you wanted to have like another title. I'm just going to leave it basic. That's good enough for me. And the next thing you're going to do is you're going to add a light. And what this is going to do is cast a shadow of your text onto your background. To do this, you go to Layer, New, and you're going to create a new light. And I like to choose a spotlight, intensity 100%. Now, the radius and the fall off, I like to make those a lot bigger. And I don't know exactly where. I'm just going to move them up. That way it's going to show more light. It's kind of like when you've got a light on your iPhone. If it's just the small LED, you've got to be really close to show something. But if you were able to intensify that, the fall off, it would mean that you can get a lot more distance. So we've got a light, and what that's going to do is the closer you get to it, the more intense. And if I go in front of my letters, I'm not going to be able to see that they're white. And the further you back up, the less you're going to be able to see. So I like to be able to have a few options. So if you go to your light and you go to press AA, it's going to give you the option with your intensity. You can make it as bright as you want. Usually 100% is fine for me. Your cone angle is what I like to change. So I'm going to be able to see the edges just kind of disappear. And the cone feather, you can adjust it to whatever you want. But for the most part, you just get to play around with that. Now, there are options, and this is a little bit more complicated, but once you understand the options that you have with every one of your layers, if you press AA on all those, it gives you your lighting options. So right now, Vikings, it says cast shadows is off. I want that on. And as soon as I do that, you'll be able to see up there, it is casting a shadow. So it's on. If you click on it and it goes to only, it's just casting the shadow, and you're not going to be able to see your actual layer. So I'm going to turn it on and accept lights on, and then I'm going to go to the texture, and I think it's already set the way that I want it. So if you press AA, cast shadows is off, and I'm going to leave it off just because it's not going to send a shadow to anything else. So I think we're set, and I like being able to go to my light and going to transform and setting keyframes as well. And what this is going to do is I'm going to be able to have the ability to control where the light is hitting. So it just gives more depth to it as we go. So I'm just going to move it over there so you can actually see, and I'm probably going to move it in as well. The closer you move, the bigger the shadow. Maybe I'll move it back. That's kind of cool. So I'll leave it at that, and there's one more thing that we're going to do, and it's just adding those ink splatters. I've already got it as a Photoshop image, and I've got just an alpha channel there. This also needs to be 3D, so you come over to this little box and you highlight it. And what that's going to do, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. You're going to be able to see as you zoom in or zoom out, it's going to give more depth. I'm going to zoom closer to the camera. I really like this look of having something right up in front. And then I'm going to duplicate it by hitting Command D. And what we're going to be able to do is move this back behind the letters now, or maybe just right in front. And if you press W, you can go to your Z-axis and you can change the direction so it doesn't just look like the same ink splatter all over the place. And actually, I do like this, but I think I need to move it off to the side so you can still see the Vikings. I'm going to duplicate this one and just add a bunch of different layers so you can see the depth that's happening. And you can change your size of these splatters just so it doesn't look like, again, the same one all over the place. And when it's all said and done, you're going to be able to take a look. And you've got a 3D title that is going to be a lot more interesting to look at than just a title at the beginning of a video. It's more interactive. And again, if you want more inclusive tutorials, things that are just more detailed, for sure go to videocopilot.net and you'll be able to look at these tutorials. They're a little longer, but they're very, very detailed. So thank you for this time we've spent together, and hopefully you are able to make a 3D title.